Nissan is the pioneer in the vehicle electrification market. The Nissan Leaf was game-changing and remains a really popular choice on New Zealand roads. But it's taken a really long time for Nissan New Zealand to get their second crack at the EV market, and it's with this, the Nissan Ariya. So Nissan has bought 3 spec levels of Ariya to New Zealand, starting with a 2-wheel drive version with a 63 kilowatt hour battery at 59,990, moving up to this, the Evolve, all-wheel drive, 290 kilowatts of power, 600 newton meters of torque, and a 90 kilowatt hour battery for 89,990. Now these are special prices that are expected to carry on through to the end of the financial year in March. This thing normally $109,000. That is quite expensive, and I don't ever see Nissan really going back to those pricings, because really for that kind of money you're up there with things like the Kia EV9 and some premium electric vehicles. But this car does actually have a little bit of a premium edge, and I think that's almost the problem for the Nissan New Zealand with this car. This car could easily carry, I think, and you'll see as we go through it, a premium badge, but it can't really carry a premium price with the Nissan badge on it. Let's walk around. So starting at the front, you have this very EV kind of blacked off Perspex style plastic. Down here we have active aero in the front shutters so that they can improve efficiency by having them closed or cooling by having them open. We have parking sensors discreetly tucked away in there, and these really cool kind of blade style lights. Now if we move through around the front, we have these big wheel arches, and you'll see a problem here with this car. It's a little bit of a design issue, I think. It picks up plant material in these. Now anyone with her Leaf, remember the plant material issues on the top of the struts? Might be reminiscent, but yeah, it's there. Now you have really big wheels on the Evolve. These are 20-inch big 255 tyres, really impressive. I actually quite like the design of these. We have a charging port here, CCS2, 22 kilowatt AC or 130 kilowatt DC. That's pretty good. Now, one of the reasons Nissan's been able to go up in charging speed is because, unlike the Leaf, this has a liquid cooled and heated battery. And it uses an interesting combination of both heat pump and PTC to do that cooling and heating. Now, some would argue that PTCs are less efficient. Nissan argues in combination, it's actually the better way to go. Now around here we have big black wing mirrors, normal door handles, thank you door handle gods, tinted windows, and then we have the back of the car. Now this is an SUV, but it does kind of have this kind of really interesting sportsback style shape, but it's still reasonably spacious inside, and it's kind of hidden by this kind of black edging here, the way this rear window curves around. And if I get the cameraman to move further out and away from the vehicle, if you take in this shape, this is very much a shape only a BEV could have. You've got this really short kind of clipped off nose with the wheels position there. And similarly at the back, you know, this is a car that's been able to break away from a petrol driven format. But it's interesting in some ways in the packaging, while they've done well, there's a few things which it doesn't do in a BEV way. Like, there's only a really tiny frunk in the front. The boot space in the rear is not great. There's some hardware under the floor that makes it not quite work the way I would like it to. And I wonder if perhaps using that sporty shape, they've lost a bit of some of the benefits they could have had by it being an EV. So if we come around to the rear, blacked out window, we have Nissan badging through there, through this kind of light bar area. Ariya badging, E-Force is Nissan's name for the four-wheel drive system. More black bumpers that probably will scuff up. I don't know, I'm not a big fan of piano black. Now the boot itself, it's not massive. A vehicle this size I would have expected, you know, close to 500 litres. It's not, it's a bit over 400. It does have this under the floor though, the 12-volt battery. You have a subwoofer sitting there under the floor, which is an interesting choice. And here we have space for your charging cords and so forth. A little bit of storage down the sides. But overall, a pretty underwhelming boot for what is a fairly large car. Let's go check out the inside. So let's start with the key. It's a standard key. There's no app control, there's no data control. Some may say that's a bit behind the times. I'm actually pretty happy with it because it'll just work compared to some of the other systems we have here at the moment. But if we move on to the interior itself, this interior is really beyond what I think you'd expect from the Nissan brand. And as I've argued outside, you know, this could carry, I guess, Nissan's equivalent of Lexus's of Infinity. This, I think, could carry an Infinity badge for the interior. So if we run through here, we have this big, huge set of screens. It's two 13-inch screens put together. They call it an S screen. So over here you have your infotainment. Over here you have your driving controls. They work really nicely. They're really nicely designed. They're reasonably responsive, but nothing amazing. They do have charge playing. They do have nav. You've got wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. They've kind of gone more for less that works really well than more that's problematic. And I guess that's a pretty good thing. Now, if we go to the steering wheel, we have touch buttons all through here. They give a nice positive feel. They do actually move. Controls for your adaptive cruise control, or all that on this side. Over here, we have the audio systems and the ability to use the screen systems. That's great. Now, if we move down here, we have these really nice touch buttons with haptic feedback for the climate control. And in a world where climate control buttons are disappearing, I love that, and I love the way they've been inlaid to this wood. It just looks really awesome. Start button there. And then down here you've got quite a bit of little storage. So we have a little storage glove box here. We have another one over here. They're not massive, but having multiple ones is handy. And then we have the center console. So we have a transmission shifter here that works nice, fairly conventional in the scheme of what's around these days, and nice to have something that moves as a button and slides forward and back. Cup holders, they can be covered over it as well. Again, this beautiful wood finish. This is all very Japanese inspired, we're told. You have the drive mode button here. Again, it's a haptic feedback button in the wood, works great, and e-pedal. So this has a version of one pedal drive. It doesn't go down to zero. It's stepped. They say that's the best way to go with this. Now, if we lift the arm, we have a wireless charger down here, and then more storage down here and USB ports. Now, this center console is actually, in this model, electrically adjustable, which is great. Allows you to get more comfortable, and maybe you want your transmission shifter further forward or further back. Now, if we look down to the floor, it's interesting in that this vehicle has a flat floor in the front, which is not that common. And then if we look at things like the grills down here, this is a lit up grill down there, and they're on the doors and in the speakers. They are inspired by Japanese lanterns and architecture. Pretty darn cool. Now, the seats themselves are super comfortable, and the synthetic leather just feels really high quality. The stitching is impressive, the design is impressive, super awesome seats. And again, soft touch features all around, this lovely Alcantara up here. It's a really high quality interior. Let's go have a look in the back. The back seat is where that curvaceous shape does actually affect the vehicle a little bit. I'm a sturdy 6 foot tall, and I'm running out of headroom a little bit here, but overall it's still a nice place. You've got USB ports, you've got heated seats in the rear, outboard positions, nice armrest. Again, this beautiful upholstery, really a big fan of that. And the grills as well for the stereo, all those kind of stuff. It's just a little tight, but overall I can't mark the interior of this car higher. It was really beautifully crafted, and something that Nissan can be really proud of. Right, let's take this thing for a drive. So, how does the Nissan Ariya drive? And the answer is really good. It's a really viceless car. The ride is really a good compromise. It's not too firm, not too soft. Brakes work well. The steering is, it's not exactly exciting, but it's not lifeless. It's just right down the middle. Even the driver assistance functions, it has all the usuals: lane keep, adaptive cruise control, blind spot, all those kind of things. They work really well. Not too many beeps, not too many boops, unlike some other cars we've driven lately. Just right down the middle, really impressive. And having normal indicators, a normal steering wheel, all that's lovely. The one pedal drive, I kind of feel like they've missed the point a little bit with this new iteration. Not going down to zero does seem to kind of miss the point of why you would want one pedal drive. I'm sure there's justifications for it. I'm sure there's reasons for it, but I'm not sure I get them. Now, of course, you have those drive modes: eco, power, normal. They work. Just leave it normal. It's fine. But none of them seem to fix the efficiency problem this car does have. Now, we've been finding that getting under 20 around town is pretty darn impossible. And on the open road, you're actually looking more like 25, 26 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. And on one spirited drive, but not too spirited, in the country, we hit about 35 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Even just now from some round town driving, we're looking at 25.5. That's not great, and it doesn't do wonderful things for range. Realistically, this thing is looking at being, unless you really try hard, and we got told by Nissan staff that they had seen over 500 from this car. This is a 500k car theoretically. I think you're looking at about a 350 to 400k car, unless you're an absolute saint, and I am not a saint. Now, that's not that big of a problem in this model, and I'm hoping it's actually better in the smaller battery, lighter model. Yeah, something to be slightly concerned about, and I would have thought that perhaps Nissan, with all their experience, would be getting better efficiency out of this vehicle. Now, one little trick they do have, which I'm actually really impressed with, is a system that stops fore and after yaw in the car. So some people will know, or their wives will probably know more than they do, that sometimes electric vehicles, with the regen and the way they're driven and the performance, they can be a little bit more nausea-inducing in the way that they pitch forward and aft. And Nissan have said they've programmed the motors in this vehicle to reduce that. The way they apply the power means that when you take off, the car's going to tilt back less, and when you brake, it's going to tilt forward less. And if I put the gas on now, the car does feel nice and flat. So that system works. I'm really impressed with it. Mazda came up with a system a few years back that helps do similar things for a car going left to right, but this is the first time I've seen a system in an electric vehicle for going forward and aft, and I think it's really impressive. Right, let's go sum up the Nissan Ariya. So the Nissan Ariya, let's talk pros and cons. Pros, this thing is built so well. I think it is a really nicely crafted car. I think it looks good and it actually drives reasonably well. Cons, this model here is a little too expensive. I don't think it's where the market is going to be for this car. I think the 63 kilowatt version, the smaller battery versions, at that $59.90 price tag, with their just consistency, their ability to be kind of normal cars, is going to be really appealing to fleet and older customers. For those into the Leaf and the concept of Nissan EV, I mean, after all, they were one of the first with a mass production electric vehicle, the Ariya won't disappoint. And just a note there, the entry-level Ariya is the price that a Leaf was not too long ago. But those looking for cutting edge will want to look elsewhere. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.